Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Friday Live. Ashley here with you and bringing you some paint and play today. So I'm really excited about this. I love just pulling out my art supplies and playing with mixed media. And so today I'm just going to show you how to paint and play with the liquid powers, and we're just going to have a bit of fun, and I'll show you some of the surfaces that we've actually been working on over the last few weeks, because of course we have actually started with we created some colourful backgrounds, then we put some amazing texture with 3D flex on different surfaces, and then last week we actually played with rust. So this week I thought I'd take another layer onto the artwork so that you can see where you can go. And then next week I think we'll have a bit more paint and play as well, because I've got enough probably to fill a couple of weeks. So then the week after we'll do atmospheric layers with the Powerwax. So let's get started. So without any further ado, we'll go down to the art table, and here I've actually got the piece that we started with the background in the Bista colours with the blue Bista, and then it's actually got the 3D flex crackle on it. So it is really looking very nice. Now I could go a number of ways here. I actually feel like I'd quite like to do a nice contrasting layer, and I thought I'd have a bit of fun with this and just show you a couple of things. So I think one of the things that you need to remember with the liquid powers is that they need to have a binder. So you need to use a binder with the liquid powers. So that can either be your Powertex, or you can actually use another liquid binder which would normally be used with acrylics. So we're going to take a look at that. So we've got lovely cracks in here, and you can see the blue layer is actually coming through some of that colour. So I'll just hold it up so that you can really see how that blue is actually popping through. So it would be quite nice to maybe keep the colour coming through with the blue and then do a different layer. So I'm thinking I might just have a play with magenta, and then I could actually even put some copper on it if I wanted to in another layer. So we'll just try the magenta. We'll see how it looks. So what I've got here is I've got a squeezy bottle that is actually, it's got half binder and half water in it, and this is actually a binder that you can use with acrylic paints, and so I just had it in my stash and I thought I'd try it with the liquid powers. But of course you can use also, you could get your transparent Powertex and you could water it down to 50-50 as well, in the same way as you would water the binder down, and then that is going to create a binder as well for the liquid powers, which is more able to be brushed on more easily. And so I've got a little cup here. We'll just have a little bit of a play with this. Straight onto the artwork there. Look at that. Okay, we'll move it out of the way. So we'll just put a bit of that in there. And the binder will dry clear. And I'll just get some magenta. And instead of spraying, I'm just going to get a bit of a pipette happening, and we'll put some colour into that binder. So I haven't quite done it one-to-one because obviously the liquid power has also got water in it. So it's got the pigment and also liquid. So you just want to be careful that you don't dilute it down too much. Then we can just get that and we can actually paint it on. So that just means that you've got a little bit more control. So you can see it's going to be less intense colour, but what I can do, of course, is I can get more of that liquid power. My little pipette thing here. And I can actually, because now it is actually going on to a wet binder. And I can brush it through some of that to get more intense colour. Of course, I can just leave it drippy as well. Oh, should have another canvas there where I'm dripping onto. And something else that would be fun to do as well would be to actually, you know, put that Liquidpower into some of those cracks if you want. So I thought I'd show you, have a play with that next week. All right, so, and we could just continue with that. I could actually also paint into some of this background layer here and see how it's getting a more purpley tone. I don't know if you can see that, but it's getting, instead of being the turquoise, it's now getting that sort of purple, that deeper purple. But I do like the turquoise, so I'd like to keep that. So we'll just throw a bit more binder on here. Now, of course, I don't have to use the binder with the Liquidpower in it already. I could actually just use it so to wet the surface, so just some transparent Powertex with a bit of water, and then actually put the Liquidpower directly onto that. All right, so that's one way of working. So we'll try something else as well, and I'll show you another way. So you could just keep playing with that. Look at that. I can play to my heart's desire. Did anyone have any questions? I'll just see who's here. So we've got Robin and Donna from Canada. Lovely to see you guys. And don't forget to let me know what you've been up to in the chat as well. What did you do last weekend? Did anyone do any rust after the live last week? Let me know what you've been inspired to create. I know, Robin, you've been doing an amazing mixed media piece. So started here with the middle panel, and then you've created 2 side panels, and it's looking absolutely awesome. So if you guys who haven't connected in the Creative Hub would like to actually connect with us, that's where you can actually see people's artwork, see what they've been up to, and where we all kind of share with one another. So again, I could actually layer the colours. I don't have to work with just one Liquidpower colour. I can work with several colours. And I can make some of it, you can see some of it where you've got more water and it's more watery is less intense, and then where it's got more pigment it's more intense. So it is quite lovely to play with, nice and bright. And of course, if I didn't want to overbrush on these side areas and I really wanted to keep the turquoise there without changing that colour at all, then I would just be a little bit more careful there. But I'm just going to basically splash that around into there simply because I'm not being careful. Okay, so if I really wanted to retain that turquoise colour without any magenta on it, I'd just be a little bit more careful with my brushing. But I just want to flick and play. All right, so I can keep going with that. I can also, if you do get anything onto the image, remember when I talked about the photo transfers at the beginning, I said that the great thing is that if you actually coat it with the Easy Coat Glossy, it means that you can actually wipe anything away from the top of the image. So it just means that you can actually remove some of that, and we can make it look more intentional around those edges. So even just playing, with a damp cloth or a sponge can be fun as well. So I'm going to show you a bit more of that in just a second. All right, so very, very plain. I would love to work more colour into that. I think it could be super, super exciting. So at the moment it's very pink, and I will have a bit more of a play with some of the other colours, so it's not quite so pink. So it's just a case of doing one layer, and then you can actually play with assess whether it's doing what you actually want it to do, and then take another layer of colour over the top of it, or another layer of texture, or another technique back into it, and really build those layers up until you're really happy with the final result. Now, so let's move on from there. I've made a bit of a mess here, but that's okay. And we'll get our palette, and I have got some Ivory Powertex here. And so what we'll do, instead of using the binder medium, we can actually get this and put a little bit of ivory out. And then put that directly into there. Now, see what that's doing on there? I've actually done that on a painting. It looks amazing. Look how it's getting that lovely little tree effect as it's spreading through that Ivory Powertex. See that? Isn't that cool? So you can actually do that on a painting. So you can put the Powertex down first, really quite thick, and then just pipette it onto there. Just put a bit more colour in there. Okay. All right, so we're not going for that. We'll just muddle that around. So again, this is going to be quite pinky, because what's happening, of course, is the lovely magenta colour is going a pastel colour with the Ivory Powertex, and then I can just paint that on. So more of a pastel-y look in there. And I might just take a little bit more white Powertex. And so you can literally play with your tones. You can dry brush back into it, and just keep playing with those layers. So that is, of course, the other option, is that you can actually take the ivory in with the liquid powers as well. All right, so that's looking very pink. So we could take a little bit of a splash of maybe some blue. Let's see if it's actually going to spray, because I didn't clean the nozzle last week. Now, I've already got that binder on there, so you can see how intense that colour is. Very, very intense colour. So that has been sprayed. Now I'm going to take it into some of these cracks, this blue. And remember as well, I can also get my binder and I can actually put that on directly. And then that's going to water that down too. So it's really just about experimenting, seeing how your layers work together and playing with those layers, trying different things. Yep. Just throw some binder on there. Got some blue over here, so we can kind of move that around. Donna's just saying that she likes the pink next to the blue and that's very striking. So, of course, because the blue with the magenta, it makes purple. So you can see how it's making that lovely purpley colour. And I would want to just get into all of these areas as well. I can play with some of that pink in here. Pink. Ashley doing pink. There's a first. Those who know me will be going, oh my goodness, Ashley's using pink. So I'm very much an earth girl, so I love earthy tones and colours. So like I love rust effects and real red ochres and you know, that's my great love, is all of those beautiful earthy colours that you get. I'm just cleaning this up a little because I've got it everywhere on here, which is okay, but I don't want that. Then I can just keep going into that. I can actually overpaint these edges because, like I say, I can actually get in there and clean it up, and I'd rather not have that really stark white that's showing through some of these. I want to really get in there and change that a little bit. Now, one of the things you will notice is I'm kind of flicking my brush around, sort of in a cross-hatch motion. So if we have a look at that, I'm sort of going around in that cross-hatchy motion. I liked that blue that was there, so I've taken that out. So we'll just... oh, where's my thing? Okay, so I liked the blue that was in here. So instead of spraying it directly onto there, I can just spray a little bit onto my palette, and then I can just pick it up and I can actually paint back into that area. Now, because this is all wet now, it's all got binder on it, I can keep brushing onto that, knowing that that binder is going to be holding the pigment onto the surface. So it is really important that you work with the liquid powers with the Powertex or another acrylic binder so that it really binds into those surfaces. So Robin's just saying, yes, some more colours cause pink. Pink stinks. Pink stinks. I don't know. Robin, what are you saying? right, so I'm going to put a bit more magenta on there because I can. Just take that blue out of my brush. The magenta is gorgeous, I've got to say. Absolutely beautiful colour. So you can see how you can just keep playing with those layers, adding the colours on top of each other, because of course there are, I think, 8 colours in the Liquidpower range. And so I could play with the violets and whatever colours that I want to there. So let's just throw a bit more binder on here. I'm going to take some of that blue. So see how it's just building up gradually in terms of the colours, unless I go super intense like I just did. Now, the good thing about using the Liquidpowers, of course, as opposed to the Bisters, is that the Liquidpowers actually UV resistant. So you're going to have the colour will permanently stay this colour rather than fading with time. So that beautiful blue will actually remain a beautiful blue colour. Any more questions? So where are you all from? So we've got Alison from Ireland. So welcome, Alison. It must be early there, middle of the night, I would have thought. So usually the UK people are usually on the replays. So great that you've made it live. And so I can just keep fiddling around and adding layer after layer. So you get the idea with that. We will take a look at another layer on this one probably later. So we can take some of the, I'll just put the binder up the top here. So we will take maybe some of the Powerwax on. So when we do atmospheric layers, I think it would be really nice to take some Powerwax onto there as well. Just going to deepen this corner up a bit, make that a bit darker up there, make it a bit darker down here. I can also use a sponge if I wanted to, so that I'm not getting brush marks. Very handy. So these, I don't know what they're called, they're the sea sponges. So it's starting to get more interesting now with the contrast in the layers, I feel. So I would just keep playing, and if it gets too dark, it doesn't matter because we can always take it back. And that's what I'm going to show you now. So let's just clean up the space a little bit. I'll move this out of the way and just refresh myself here and show you a different canvas. Hang on, put that over there, that one there. And of course, I could also play around in the same way with my rust from last week. So this is how the rust actually turned out. So it really did come up really beautifully. So you can see those gorgeous layers of the orange rust colour, and remember I did a lot of very textural effects on it, so it's actually quite three-dimensional as well. So it just really is gorgeous. So I can take some more colour into this layer in the same way as I've just done on that other one, ensuring that I don't go onto the rust colour. If I wanted to, I could actually do the underlayer first and then do the rust on top so that I don't have to paint back into it. But this isn't going to be too problematic because I can just basically do exactly what we've just done, take some binder onto there, and I can use some of this Liquidpower that's on my table here and just take it into some of those background areas. So again, I can just play with that and of course be a bit more careful about what I'm doing than what I'm being now. Okay, so then you can just play with that. All right, so that's not what I wanted to show you. I just thought I'd show you that quickly. But I've got this larger canvas here, and it is very dark, and it is a bit crazy and it is really busy. And so what it needs to be quietened down a little bit. Now, you will notice that the colour on this side is quite different to the colour on this side. And so if we take a closer look at that, not sure how well you can see that, but see how intense some of this colour is that's actually in here. So all I've done is, this was created doing just layers of what we've been doing over the last few weeks. So playing with 3D Flex, playing with the Vista and with the Liquidpowers, and just putting different things on here. So I would quite like to have had really big chunky texture. I am really loving how the white cracks are showing through this dark colour here, but I can always take that back. Now you'll notice one thing that has happened here. See this? So basically a little piece of the crackle has come off. So all you need to do is get a little bit of transparent Powertex and actually put it and stick it back on, stick it back in place. So to actually bring up the colour, all we need to do is use a damp sponge, and you can actually have options here. So you can sponge back into it, but you don't want to use too much water at this point. So you want to just go on with sort of a damp cloth and bring up that colour, working quite carefully. So you can see, you know, I'm kind of dabbing this because this side has already been done a little bit. So if we turn this around, I'm just going to turn it this way so that I can get into this side. So you can see that this side is quite a bit darker, and if I wanted to, I can leave it dark and I could take some lighter colour back over the top, and I do want to retain some contrast. So I do need to leave some areas quite dark, and I'm liking it through the middle section here. I'm going to sort of streak that up a little bit. I can always tidy that up later. But just working now with a damp cloth and dabbing some of that colour that I've actually sprayed onto my piece off. And I can work quite carefully into that. Then it's just a case of playing with more layers. So I think Donna had a question, so we'll just pop that on the screen. So how long do these types of products take to dry thoroughly before you varnish them? Is it still 3 weeks as if you were putting it outside? Yeah, so I still leave it to fully dry before I put a resin or an art varnish on my piece. So I like to really make sure that it has dried thoroughly before I do that with the solvent varnish. And so, yeah, so I hope that answers your question, Donna. And she's also saying that brown painting with the blue added now looks like an aerial shot of land and water. Nice. So is that this one that we're doing now, Donna? Yes. Yes. Cool. Well, that's what I was going for. It is, I am going for a landscape with this one. And so I do a lot of plein air painting as well. And so I do love doing landscape. And so sometimes, you know, when I'm working abstract, I quite like to work it into being more of a landscape or some sort of reference to the environment. I'm looking forward to having a bit of a play actually with some of my, and this is coming up very soon, I'm going to be having a bit of a play with some of the paintings that I've done on plein air, and actually, oh, you can tell I'm creating, I go silent. So use them as a reference to create some textural work. So basically they will form the composition and the layout, and I'm going to create some textural surfaces and work using that composition. Now see this? So I've taken that probably back too far, so you do have to be a little bit careful, but I can also spray more colour back into it, or I can take the surrounding areas a little bit lighter as well. Now, if you love paint and play and mixed media, in a couple of weeks, first weekend of December, I'm actually doing a mixed media mentoring weekend, and you bring all your Powertex. So if you're in Perth, this is a perfect opportunity for you to actually work over multiple surfaces for that weekend, and I mentor you and take you through lots of layers. So that is actually on my events on the website and also on Facebook. So if you do want to take a little bit more of a look at that, make sure you check that workshop out, because it is going to be an insane weekend. It is going to be a small group of only 8 people, and I'll be working you through a series of canvases. So because you're bringing your own materials, your own surfaces to work with, you can basically work from one canvas to another canvas, and then we can create layers like we've been doing over the last few weeks. So it's a little bit exciting. I'm excited about it, and I haven't let the cat out the bag yet, so you guys are the first people hearing about it. So if you do want to come along to that and you are in Perth, then make sure you book in quickly, because I think once I send the email out, I think it will fill pretty quickly. So free yourself up for the weekend. And I know Donna's just saying, oh, I wish I was in Perth. I wish you were in Perth too, Donna. It would be lovely to see you and meet you in person. So But I'll bet Canada is absolutely beautiful. It'll be starting to get colder there now for winter. So isn't that lovely? So I would just keep working back into that. The other thing that I can do, instead of just actually wiping it off, I can get my very dirty palette that I had before, and I can actually, I'm spilling things here. Oops. Where's my cloth? Okay, I can actually get my sponge. I might actually use a cleaner palette and wipe up this big spill that I've just done. Oh, I'm a bomb. Who else is a bomb in the studio? So anyway, all good. All right, so we'll take some ivory. And a little bit of the blue again. We'll just spray a little bit of that into that. There's my palette knife. Disappear. There it is. Baby blue. Look at that. Okay, so it is a very light blue colour, and so I can also take some more ivory here next to it. Now, if I damp my sponge off, this one is kind of a little bit damp, so I'm better to spray it with just some water instead of actually really wetting that. Just to dampen that off is really nice. You don't want it too wet. If it's too wet, actually take a cloth and dry it like that, and then you can actually get this and go more on there. I actually might go with the flatter sponge because it's getting into the divots where I don't want it. Hang on, I need to see what I'm doing. Too far away. Okay. You want to be really careful with this. So you can see that I've overdone that. So I'm just drying that cloth off, taking a little bit of that off so that it's not so wet. That's better. So when you're working back into it this way, you really do want to be careful. Make sure you're not using too much. Just pop some ivory on there. Take the excess off. So what we're doing now is we're taking in a lighter colour so that that dark colour actually pops through from underneath. So instead of washing it away, we can actually add colour onto it. Now, if you have some really beautiful bits, you don't want to go over those because you can see that I've lost a lot of the colour that was in here. But I'm really liking, I love adding the Powertex on over the top. This area here is very wet because my sponge was too wet. It's much nicer here where we're getting the other colours. See here how we're getting the other colours come through, and that's simply because I'm just hitting the top layers of the texture and it's not going through the gaps and into the background. So here it's really gone into the background layer and it hasn't hit the top, whereas you can see here it's actually hitting the top of the texture, which is just really gorgeous. So you can see how some of that is looking. So if you really mix up your colours to what you want, then you can get some really superb layers of colour. So this is really a very gorgeous way to work and get some contrast back into your piece. And think about your edges. So think about whether you want a soft edge or a hard edge. And remember that I can always put more colour on if I want to. I'm just going to bit more ivory. How are we going for time? So Donna's just saying, yes, they just finished closing their backyard there for winter. So your backyard looks amazing, Donna. So I know you love spending time in the garden as well as in your art room.